Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our weekly webcast called The Leader's Edge. And we're here tonight again with our special guest, Mr. Nelson D. Sir Nelson, good evening po.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
We are so glad, sir, to have you here. And of course, this is a very productive and very insightful, no, sir, coming from your topic. So, sir, would you mind to introduce yourself shortly to our audience?
I started out as a graduate of chemical engineering from De La Salle University. That was in the early 80s when you millennials were start being born. So, so you can guess how old I am now. Afterwards, I got a detour for an MBA through the Asian Institute of Management. Since then, I've embarked on a career on both manufacturing and industrial marketing and sales. 5 years ago, I was given my first plant to run. And about 2 years ago, I was given a second plant. So now I'm running two plants at the same time. So this will be like the culmination of my career as an engineer and as a business person. And then I'm going to combine it with communications.
Wow, it's very seldom for an engineer to turn out to be a speaker and trainer, sir.
Thank you.
All right. So, sir, what are topic are we going to discuss tonight?
Well, the module for tonight will be creating a problem solving culture where we seek to empower both the leader and the follower to tap into their people's reservoir of insight and creativity.
Okay, that's perfect. Exactly. This is what I want you guys to focus on too, and I want your attention here because you know what? If the engineer becomes a speaker, for sure he is a process freak. I want you to stay until the end of this full hour of this The Leader's Edge episode together with Mr. Nelson Dewey because you're gonna learn a lot about the process for tonight.
All right. Let me give you this particular insight.
Go
When
ahead.
you think about it, every business issue is a problem to be solved. So
Mhm.
whether it's how to be innovative, how to retain talent, how to increase sales, or how to reduce manufacturing defects, these are essentially problems. Therefore, an organization's greatest asset is not really people. Rather, the greatest assets will be people who are problem solvers. And the trick is to have problem solvers better than the ones in the competition. And that's why it's imperative to have a culture where everybody, not just the leader,
Mhm.
solves problems. And that's where we are in not now.
Wow, that's a very insightful, sir. Okay, so sir, I can't wait to to learn from you, and of course our audience as well can't wait to listen and hear from you, sir, on how to solve problem from an engineer's perspective.
I'll be glad to share whatever I can. Let me start with a story. Remember, I inherited the plant about 5 years ago. Actually, it's not from my engineering days in college, but when I took over a factory 5 years ago. So early on, a maintenance supervisor came to me and said, Sir, may problema kami, sir. May sa problema sa machine. What's the problem? And so he explained the problem and he paused. He stared at me and expected me to give me the solution. What I said in return was, so, and he was taken aback because he thought I'll be like from Mount Sinai, give him the answer. And he explained the problem a little bit more. And I said, so I keep pushing back. So, so. And after a while, it seemed that he ran out of problems to describe. So he was shifting now to the solution. Siguro sir, itong gawin natin. And I said, and what else? And until finally he came with a solution that I was happy with and said, go, do it. And that gives you the clue of the problem solving culture wherein many people think it's the leader who has all the solutions. But if I were to do that, I'll burn myself out. Rather, we'll have the people who are closest to the problem. They would know the solutions, even though they may not be aware of it. It's just a matter of drawing it out from them. That is the culture which we seek to develop in every organization.
What did you discover from early conversation with that supervisor, sir?
I had that insight that I don't have to be done with all the solutions. Remember, these people have been with the machines day and night. They know the problem much better than I do. I may know a bit about everything, but they know everything about something. So the challenge is to tap into their reservoir of wisdom and creativity and come up with the solutions much better than I can. Let's go ahead, Rock. Thank you for this opportunity. We are now going to embark in an adventure called Creating a Problem Solving Culture through the kindness of Speakers Bureau Academy. So, Rock, please go to the first slide. All right. The way we begin is not the followers, it's the leader. We usually think that the leader empowers the follower, but not really. Sometimes the leader has to be empowered himself. And that's why to start the problem solving culture, we start with the leader. Specifically, it's to examine his role and reinvent himself. Specifically, I like to ask this: you as a leader, are you a messiah or are you a mentor? When I say messiah, you're the one with all the answers, you have the truth, or you're the problem solver, you're even the miracle worker, messiah, remember? And the other side of the coin is that you're making disciples and you're mentoring people to become problem solvers, perhaps even better than you. And if you're in HR, you'll recognize this as the autocratic and the participative management style. Now, don't let me wrong. Autocratic has its place, as situational leadership will tell you. And the point is that it has its role, especially if the problem is urgent, time is tight, and really, you're the one with all the answers and all the knowledge. The pitfall is that you're stunting the growth of your people to become problem solvers themselves. And that's where we are starting that perhaps you may have to let go of an autocratic style and migrate towards a more participatory role.
Wow, that's actually very insightful. Sir, why do some leaders, stay being boss or self-centered, or what do you say, that boss-centered?
That's a very, very good question. I had my
Mhm,
share of boss-centered cultures wherein the boss is the one that has all the answers. Sabi ni
mhm,
boss sabi ni Sir Nelson gaya natin. I think there are many answers to that. One of the ways would be like the most gracious answer would be perhaps that's the only way the boss knows how. Okay, in fairness, perhaps he was mentored that way, and perhaps he was under pressure to deliver results, and that's where let's get it done. Here's what you do. Okay, in fairness, I also know people, some bosses who may feel that they need to be indispensable, and therefore they will hoard all the knowledge to themselves so that people keep coming to them and say, the organization cannot afford to let me go, especially when it's time to be retired. So there may be a certain mixture that they may be insecure, but they also perhaps genuinely think that that's the way to serve the company best.
mhm. Sir Nelson, how do you convince boss-centered leaders to change?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because change is always difficult. But here's a short detour. Can you please go to the next slide? Okay. Now, we think that change is sudden, that there is a polarity between autocratic and participatory or boss-centered and subordinate-centered. It helps to think that it's actually a continuum. So you'll see this particular model called Tanner-Baum-Schmidt behavior continuum. So if you're starting on the far left, you are very autocratic. You make the decision, you announce it, get it done. Then the way to see it is to see the progression from left to right, wherein at first you tell people what to do. That's the far left. Eventually, you will sell the people your solution. But you notice as you get to the middle, you begin to consult your people. You begin to pick their brains and then solicit their ideas and then integrate them with your own. And eventually you go to the right where you're now becoming more and more participative. The extreme right will be more delegative, meaning to say that here's the problem. I trust you guys. Go ahead and solve the problem. The final decision is mine, but chances are I'll approve it right away. Now, with that, you now please go to the next slide. So, if you are a boss centered or an autocratic person, to help you motivate to change, it helps to have this game called alternative reality. What I would ask the leader is this: imagine what happens when I unleash my people's creativity and wisdom. Notice three things. First of all, I use the present tense. I did not say what will happen. What happens now? Imagine if you do it now. What's going to be the immediate result when I do this change in myself? The other thing you'll notice is that I use when, not if, because you're assuming that there's no choice. It's a no choice behavior. I have to create this culture where I have to be out of autocratic and go participative. Last but not least, you'll see creativity and wisdom. It is both left brain and right brain. So, what I would ask the people now would be, if I were to have a more participatory role, what will happen? And I will get a lot of responses which hopefully will motivate them. For example, I will get answers like, what will happen is that I'll be less stressed because it's very stressful. People will say, Sir Nelson, we have a problem. Yeah, what's the problem? What's the problem? But if let's say the guy comes, Sir Nelson, we have a problem, but here is my recommendation. Diba? Sarap makipakinggan eh. The other thing would be like, imagine the people being happy, they're engaged because they now have this sense of control. They feel that their voices are being heard and they have a contribution to the organization, especially millennials. Or you may have a benefit that when you have people closer to the ground, they will detect the small problems and solve them before they become big problems. When you have this kind of vision in your brain, and hopefully the boss centered person will say, it makes sense. Let's become more and more participatory. And hopefully now you begin the next process to change the culture. All right. So after you have empowered the leader, the next step is to empower the followers, your people. And for that to happen, you must create a safe environment. Please go to the next slide. Okay. A safe environment is one where your people can talk without fear. I've been to toxic environments where it's like this: people do not even want to talk about problems. They cannot open up because they may feel that if they go to their boss, they elevate the problem upstairs, they will get scolded, they'll be shamed, they'll be blamed. So what happens? We don't talk about the problem. In fact, you may even hide the problem. There's no problem. Then before you know it, the machine breaks down, the plant explodes, you lose money, you close your shop, that sort of thing. So we do the direct opposite where we create an environment where people will be free to talk about the problem and engage them so that they can now talk about solutions.
Okay. So how can a leader create that safe environment?
Okay, let me give an example. Rock, pretend that we're in a conversation.
Hmm.
You're talking, you're giving me a story, and then I
Hmm.
cut you in the middle. How would you feel, Rock?
Well, I feel like disrespected for somehow, and I feel like uncomfortable.
Yes, precisely the point. If I cut you off, I am disrespecting you. In fact, I'm saying that, you're not worth my time, you're not worth my patience, it's all about me. And the key to having a safe environment is to have a position of respect. Let me put it this way. There are many techniques to have this safe environment. We'll go to another slide for that one. However, instead of trying to have a checklist of what to do, technique here, it's best to have a particular mindset where if you have the mindset, all the behavior follows, and that mindset is one of respect. Please go to the next slide. Okay, so the key to the safe environment is to have respect. Aretha Franklin was correct. RESPECT. Suck it to me, suck it to me, suck it to me. All right. And notice the picture this. You now have this fountain called respect. And what comes is a pool, a refreshing pool where people can be safe, where they can have shared values, shared vision, shared languages. I don't need to go through every one of them. In fact, in an exercise, we may have the people say, what does respect look like for you? And this will be some of the examples. I'll just go through, let's say, probably the first two. You'll notice that if you have respect, you now are free to listen to every side. That's how much I respect you as a person. I may not like what you say, but there's an inherent word to you. That's why I will give you my ear. Many times when I listen to you, I'll have my judgment right away. And that I'll be thinking, about my reply, or worse, I'll be thinking, that's a stupid idea. But if I were to park that, give you the respect, give you airtime, that's also the way to do it. Notice the other ways would be, I will give you permission to make mistakes and learn from them. I can give you constructive feedback. I will not attack you, will attack the problem. And many times we'll say, thank you. And part of respect is that you be vulnerable and therefore say, I was wrong. So you notice that if you say about respect, many times you don't really give respect. You invest respect to other people, and voila, they'll give you respect in return. And there's a hot tip: when you're respected, chances are you will be loved.
So you have the leader and the environment. Where do the people comes in?
Okay. Now, you created already the leadership style appropriate to the culture. You're building the culture first with a safe environment. Now we go to the analysis of the problem. Please go to the next slide. All right. What do you see, Rock?
It's an iceberg.
What do you notice about the iceberg?
Well, the iceberg, you only see the surface, no? Maliit lang siya. Pero at the bottom, wow, it's actually massive.
Yes. And that's where the Titanic got wrong. I can remember the Titanic, yeah. And if
I've seen that
and if
movie.
yeah, I've seen that movie. Yeah. I'm the king of the world. Yeah, okay. James Cameron made a killing of that. Now, if you remember chemistry, 90% of the iceberg is underwater. It's really the 10% that's up there because of the lower density. Okay, chemical engineering tayo. So what happens that many people see only what is the iceberg above the surface. Chances are they do not see what's below the surface. The lesson here is this. Many times when we try to solve the problem, we're actually attacking the symptom. Who knows the problem is actually the symptom, and you're giving only the band-aid solution. And therefore you have this phenomenon called the problem keeps coming back, coming back, coming back. When will this ever end? And so the principle behind this problem solving culture is you train your people to dig deeper. Like the iceberg, you see below the surface and ask yourself, what is the real problem?
So, why do we usually miss the real problem?
Oh, I can tell that from experience. We used to have a meeting where this guy made this analysis. It's called the fishbone. And so he was telling, this is the problem, here's the solution. He pounced on the solution right away. But intuitively, I know there's a deeper problem. And I asked him why. Why did you choose that one? Answer, that was the easiest to fix. So that's the reason why people tend to stop at the obvious one because it's the one with the least effort, least analysis. They settle. And so what is the challenge? We challenge is that's good. Can we dig deeper? Can we dig deeper? Can we dig deeper? That'll be one reason why people they settle for the symptom, not in the real problem.
But won't the leader give up control?
Here's the thing. The beautiful part is that you are still in control. In a sense, you're guiding the follower how to solve the problem. And then at the end, the final decision is still yours.
Mm, okay. Is there where the tools where that like Ishikawa comes in?
Oh, that's a fantastic thing. It's the
Yeah.
Ishikawa diagram. We call
Yeah,
it the fishbone.
Ishikawa diagram.
Yes, Ishikawa. Yes, it's a mouthful. So we call it the fishbone. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So it's a fantastic tool. We do it also. My experience is that if you're just starting, especially if let's say you're a machine operator, you did not come from engineering school, it may be daunting, it may be complicated, you may feel overwhelmed. So what we usually do is what we call the 5 whys. We'll go to that later in the next slide. But before we do so, let me give you 2 hot tips how to go about it before you go to the 5 whys. Can you please go to the next slide, Rock? All right. So remember what I said about the leader has to reinvent himself. The pitfall of many problem solving sessions is that the leader comes as a knower, 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 rather than a learner. So the first attitude of the leader is to see, I know a lot of things, but I'll park them for a while. I pretend I'm seeing the problem for the very first time. Clean slate, I know nothing. Let the followers, let the people teach me, I learn. Okay, so that's the first thing when you want to conduct the Ishikawa or the 5 whys. Now, please go to the next slide. Here's another hot tip. I love this. I'm sure you love Simon Sinek. Okay, who doesn't? And I came across this wonderful YouTube video where it tells the story of about tribe, and the tribal chief gives a meeting. He lets everybody talk, and then he speaks last. And I do that in my problem-solving sessions. Why? Because if I were the leader, and at the start I will tell them my thinking, my insight, my solution. Guess what will happen, Rock? What do you think will happen?
Um, I don't know what's gonna happen next, sir.
Well, what will happen is like this. If you're the follower, sinabi na si Boss Nelson tapos na usapan. Okay? So if you're the leader, you speak first, you tell them your solution or you have an inkling of your solution. I have an idea, this should be done. Guess what will happen to the followers? They will shut down. They will
Mm.
not think about the problem solving anymore because they think the leader already made up his mind. And so the two hot tips for you before you go to the Ishikawa or the 5 why is that number one, the leader has to pretend I know nothing. I start fresh. Let's look at it from a fresh viewpoint and then be the last to speak. Shut your mouth. Then you invite the people now to talk. So please go to the next slide. And this is now where we go to the 5 whys. Remember, I highly recommend this over the Ishikawa because of its simplicity, especially if your followers are just starting. So it's like a journey downstairs. You go to the basement where the root problems are. You ask 5 whys. Why is this happening? Why? Now, it doesn't have to be all five. This is a rule of thumb. By the fifth why, you should already have the root cause. And then in the plant, we have this thing called show it, Rock, the next slide. I love this. Oh, I see you're already laughing.
Sir,
Because
you're so creative in doing this. Yeah.
yeah, we the bucket list. This is a bucket list because
Yeah.
all right,
So
we
witty.
have
Galing.
yeah, we have this thing at the plant called the bucket list. Okay, we have this call group meeting, and somebody will say, "Sir, we have a problem." He explains the problem, and people like me or some his colleague will say, "Bucket." Then they would say, bucket, until we get to the root cause. You
Okay.
know you are the root cause when there's no more bucket to talk about, and intuitively you know that's the one, and you address that problem. And if I may give an example, this happened only 2 weeks ago. Please go to the next slide. Okay. This is actually a factory setting, but it can be applied whether you're in accounting, you're in HR, you're in finance, you're in sales. The basic principle is to keep on asking the why. In our case, the manufacturing world, we have a boiler, it broke down. And of course, as you can imagine, it stalled our operations for some time. We lost a certain amount of value there. So notice what we did. We did not immediately castigate the operator. Ang tanga mo, napaka-lazy. No, we did not do that. So we go systems, not personality oriented. So we ask the first why. Why did the boiler break down? Answer, there's a part that burned out. It's an electronic sensor. Ang pyesa, sir, nasunog. Then we ask the next question, why? Bakit nasunog? Because there was no bunker fuel going in. It's a bit technical, but basically, because there's no fuel going in, it made that part fail. O bakit naman? How come there was no bunker fuel? Answer, the operator didn't open the valve. When we checked the fuel line, hey, how come this is closed? You did not open the valve. Now, at this point, it is very easy to blame the operator. You're so negligent. How could you be so stupid, etc. But notice in 5 why, hot tip, never talk about the individual. Talk about the procedure and the system. Now, that's one way to create a safe environment as well. Always issues, not personalities. So we go to the next why. Why did you not open the valve? I assume it was open. Classic case of maling akala. Okay. So he assumed it was open. It was not. That led to the fuel not going there, and that led to the part burning out. That led to the boiler breaking down. And so what happened? Why did you assume it? Apparently, there was no checklist. There's no guide for him to make sure it was open. So we went to the last why, which is there's no checklist. Okay. So the solution was not to discipline the operator, not to penalize him, but to create a system so that no matter who is the operator, the system will work and the boiler will never break down again. And the solution towards the end, as you will see, is to create, well, these are nerdy terms. We create OPL, 1 point lesson. We create VCM, visual control management. We create WI, work instructions. We had them already out there in the boiler room, and guess what? It never happened again. And that's an example of 5 why, the power of having so systematic. You empower people wherein you're free to talk about problems. We will not put the boiler operator in jail, nothing like that. We look at the issue and see what is the real problem. It is therefore that there's a lack of checklist, there's a lack of system by which you can do one, two, three, and therefore run the boiler. perfectly.
Wow. Galing, sir. Galing, galing. Sir, we have a question here from the audience, but I have a personal question as well.
Sure,
Is it
no
okay?
problem. No
All right.
problem.
Okay, sir. I've been using Five Wise as well as a design thinking consultant. No.
Yes, yes,
Pero my question here, the way I see it, the use of your Five Wise is to identify the root cause, di ba,
yes,
of the
yes.
problem.
That
Is
is
it o-
true.
is it okay to use the Five Wise for the solutions naman?
The five whys naman will give you towards the solution. Like I
Okay.
said, the fifth why will tell you the root cause, and then you create the solution appropriate for that one. I think you know the principle.
Yeah.
How do you know that this is the root cause? If you implement the root cause, the solution, the problem will not appear again. If you make a solution that does not address the root cause, the
Mm-hmm.
problem will recur. I think you know the principle. So you
Yes.
can use the root cause analysis, RCA, to create
Mm-mm.
the solution. Just make sure it's the solution for the root cause, not for the symptom.
Thank you for that answer, Sir Nelson D. And then we have another questions from the audience. Ito po. What if the person doesn't want to participate in a problem-solving culture? Paano
All
nga
right.
ba?
Oh, we have that also in our plan. And actually, I think in every organization, if I may speak in Filipino again, iiwanan kita. Okay, here's the concept. Here's the concept. We are creating this culture where everybody solves problems. It's like going into a train to go to that culture. If you refuse to step into the train, we cannot wait for you forever. The train is moving. So therefore, iiwanan kita. So it's your choice. Now, don't complain if several years later, your peers now will become promoted or earn more than you. It's your choice.
Sir, I can imagine such people raise objections or obstacles in, in changing this new culture. So how do you correct this, this to your people?
Okay. We also have that kind of people. When you have people who resist change, in this case, they don't like to join the problem solving culture, yeah, we also give them a chance. We try to develop their skill before we say, iwan kita. And that gives us to the next slide. Please go to the next slide. So we give them a chance by changing their mindset. We now try to speak possibility language. We explore what can be, not what cannot be. What do you see, Rock, in this particular JPEG?
It's a box.
And
Thinking out of the box.
yes, you got it.
Oh,
Think out of the box. Yeah.
ang galing.
Yeah, I love word puzzles kasi yung tipong puzzle na you see this, what does it mean? Okay, think outside the box. Okay,
Think
there's
outside
one
the
of my,
box. Okay.
oh yeah, okay. So notice it's like this. Many people, yeah, there are people like that. There's the early adopters, there's the innovators, there's the majority, and there's the resistors and the late adopters. So for this particular case, my advice, by the way, this is another hot tip. I'll rather work with, let's say, the 90% who are adapting rather than 10% who are resisting. I may give them a chance. I may give them every training. Then I'll give them the little warning. If you don't join, iwanan kita. But then I would now go to this particular 90% who are receptive. And now we go to the receptive part where we have people now change their language. Please go to the next slide. Who do you think this animated character is?
This is from Winnie the Pooh, right, sir?
Yes,
I'm
it
sorry,
is.
I'm not watching this anymore. I think my kid's watching this. I think his name is he's the donkey's Eeyore? Eeyore, if I'm
Yes,
right.
yes, Eeyore, you got it correctly. Okay,
All right.
apparently you're watching more than Batman, so very good. Now, Rock, when you see Eeyore, see this picture, what do you think is his personality?
I think it's for me, no, it's a so low self-esteem. Parang
Yeah, yeah,
he takes decisions. He doesn't do decision making. Parang for me in
yes,
the leadership, he takes the command lang and he do all the actions. That's why I
yes.
see in this character.
That's good. That's good. Now, take a look at his facial expression. What do you
Mhm.
what do you deduce from his the way he looks?
The way he looks is really again, no, parang sad siya.
Sad.
Yeah. Parang I feel lonely.
Yeah.
And then what else I can think of? Parang the way you say it, sad, lonely, and cast, cast out.
Cast out or crestfallen.
Yeah, something like that. So,
Now, the way the character is depicted, he is sad, he's lonely, he's like a loner
yeah.
because he is basically a pessimist. Okay,
Mm,
that's his character. So he's the guy who will always say, it doesn't work, there's no solution, we cannot make it. So that's his personality. And so the thing about in your organization, you may have a bunch of Eeyores there. And so what we now try to do is to flip the thinking that you're not a pessimist, but you become more optimistic and you become not sad, but very happy. And guess what? Instead of being lonely, you're part of a productive team. And that's the beauty of having this particular problem solving culture. Now, I have a good way of presenting it. Please go to the next slide, Rock. All right. So now, this is the way I would look at it. This is a wall. The wall represents a problem. Your goal is to go from one side to the other. Please go to the next slide. Okay, so you're now at one particular place where you're now trying to solve the problem. You're looking at the wall, you're looking at the problem. Your goal is to get to the other side of the wall because that's the goal. The reward is there. But like Eeyore, you'll be looking at the wall and say, I keep looking at the wall. It's a great big wall. There's no way for me to break it down or to solve it. In fact, I will keep on thinking about the obstacles. There's no budget. Does that sound familiar? There's no budget. There's no time. There's no people, that sort of thing.
yeah.
The boss will not accept it. It'll be shut down. The competitors already did it. We did it before. Doesn't work. That sort of thing. So you now have a bunch of Eeyores trying to solve the problem, but they're also defeating themselves. Now, here's the trick about possibility language. It's a whole new mindset. Please go to the next slide. Now, I like to call this the miracle question. The miracle question. Pretend you wake up one day and a miracle happens. The problem has been solved. You're now on the other side of the wall, magically speaking. Then you wonder, what happened? What did the solution look like, or sound like, or feel like? How do you know that it was running? What do you see the people doing? What do you think were the conversations? And then you say, this happened because this happened. Then you work backwards. What led to the solution? Notice what happened. You're no longer thinking of the obstacles at all. You're pretending the solution has been done, and now it's fine. It's now for you to find out what happened, and then you work backwards. Guess what? You're solving the problem.
Okay, so essentially, sir, you're running a brainstorming session.
Yes. And then I believe that's the next slide. Let's take a look. All right. So many times when you have the problem solving session, you try to create ideas, create solutions, and the language is very important. And this is what we call solution focused questions. For example, what will it take to solve this problem, overcome this limitation, or address the issue? What needs to be done to? How can we, or what can we do differently to? Would it help if this? And my favorite question is, what else? Notice every time we have a brainstorming session, we keep asking, what else, what else, what else? Because my experience is that many times that the real answers will be if medyo makulit ka. You ask a series of what else, and then the next what else will be better than the first one because by definition, the first answer is the easiest, the most obvious. Then as you go to what else, what else, what else, they'll be forced to think some more, be more creative, and hit the jackpot. The next what else will give you the real solution.
Okay. So what do you do when someone in the group now shoots down your idea? I called it parang creative killers.
Yes, okay. I learned something from you, creative killers,
Yeah.
okay? Okay. The way to do it, or the way I would do it, is like this. We have the ground rules from the start. We have the agreement that this brainstorming solution, or I would say solution focused session, ground rules, and one of them is let's have all the ideas on the whiteboard. Nobody comments, nobody shoots it down. Now, if let us say there is some guy who major forgot that ground rule, he says, that's not going to work, then what I will do is like this. I will not tell him to shut up. That will be disrespectful. It will kill the mood.
Okay.
I will tell him something like this. Okay, that's a good concern. Now I'll write it down on another part of the whiteboard. I'll park it there. Okay, so notice what happens. I did not disrespect the guy. I give him the sense that I listened to him. I valued his input. Then I gave him the idea that it's going to be considered later, if at all. And then what happens that, okay, next one, can we, I would, notice the I statement. I would appreciate if similar objections or concern, we'll keep it to ourselves first because we'll tackle them later. So notice what happened. You create the space for the guy who shoot it down, and hopefully he'll not do it again because he sees that I'm valuing his input, set it aside, and then stay there. Meantime, now let's go on with the other ideas. What about you, Rick? What about you, John? Any other solutions you have in mind? Any ideas in mind? And then we get the conversation going again.
Okay. So it's like a 360, sir, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for sure, in every brainstorming, merong witty, merong brainy, merong
Yeah.
geek. How
Yeah.
about naman ito, sir? Some person, ito, hindi nawawala to in a brainstorming, who gives a terrible idea.
Okay. All right. Now, here's what I do. Okay. This reality. This reality. I'll not make any comment. I'll just write it on the whiteboard and let it stay there. Now, what happens like this? As the meeting progresses, people have a sense it is a bad idea and it just stays there. Notice what happens. The guy who gave the bad idea saves face. Okay? Maybe he himself knows, oh nga, no, that's a terrible idea, but nobody's talking about it. And therefore, what happened? His respect is, his dignity is preserved. He doesn't feel attacked, and therefore now he's free to join the better ideas. And I think you know, Rock, the principle. What is the best way to kill a bad idea?
To kill a bad idea,
What is the best way to kill a bad idea?
for me, just to keep my mouth shut.
Okay, that's
I,
one.
yeah, ignore it. And in fact, in my practice, I do a yes and conversation. It's my practice.
Oh, I like that. Yes, Anna. Okay.
Yeah, yes and conversation. That's what I do actually.
Okay. Wag lang yes, but kasi the but is a mood killer. Kasi
Yeah,
but, yeah, yes and is good.
yeah.
Yes, but is medyo, okay, because the but implies that what you said before is terrible. Okay, yeah.
Terrible
The
idea.
but eh. I
Uh,
like your cooking, but okay. Yeah, diba? I like your paper, but you notice the but has this negative effect. So
I agree. I agree. That's why I practice ko, and every time I do a design thinking facilitation
yeah,
is yes and conversation. That's what
yeah,
I taught that also to my to my participants.
I like that. I'll check it out later. Yes, I learned something from you today. Yes, and okay. Now here's the answer. The best way to kill a bad idea is to offer a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yes, you can be quiet, etc. But if let's say the quiet implies consent, that's a danger there. So
Mm-mm.
in the brainstorming session, the general principle is like this: the best way to kill a bad idea is to show a good idea. Now notice,
Mm-hmm.
good idea. Later in
So
the process, yeah, go on. You're about to ask something.
yeah, yeah. So I'm just thinking lang. So what do you do with the good ideas?
Okay. Now, when you have the good idea, it should be self-evident so that the guy who gave the bad idea, oh nga, no. Okay,
Mm.
so hopefully that guy will be mature enough to think that way. So the good idea is self-evident. Now, here's the thing now. The next step is to make a good idea better. Okay, so notice the best way to kill a bad idea is to offer a good idea, then have the snowball effect that the good idea becomes better, better until you get the best idea from the group. And that's supposed to be output of the brainstorming session.
Mm. Okay. So sir, can you walk us through to the actual problem solving session?
Yeah, I'll be glad to. Please go to the next slide. Okay, so remember the process. We start with yourself as the leader. You reinvent your role. You are not the messiah, you're the mentor. Part of that is to create a safe environment where people can be free to talk about problems and be on a problem solving mode. Then, next step will be to look for the root problem, the real causes, and attack that one. Then, you create ideas or solutions to address the problem. Then, after a while, in a brainstorming session, you have a smattering of ideas or solutions. Then, you may have to choose one approach or the strategic step, or we call it plans and programs. So I have this particular actual experience. I love saying this. So this one is to synergize, to combine good ideas into one great solution. Please go to the next slide. Okay, this actually happened a few months ago. Remember, I run two factories and one of them has this problem. We have this main production area and sales, okay, they brought in a new customer where they said, we want this, but you need to do a secondary process. You need to do something else to the product. So guess what? The main production area keeps on making the product, but it stays there. It congests the place, and very soon we had little storage space. We had people having difficulty moving around. And afterwards, who will do the secondary process? It gets delayed. And what happens? Delivery gets delayed, and the customer becomes angry. So that's the problem that we have. So what I did was to call for a problem-solving meeting. And here's the trick. Normally, you think that you're going to ask only production people to be there. No, the genius is that in the culture has to be interdisciplinary, interdepartmental. So I only not call production, but also people from QA, finance, sales, materials, and logistics. Everybody was represented there. By the way, before I forget, let me give you another hot tip. Now, remember what I said? The respect factor. Okay, here's the mindset. When you now have these people in that one room, imagine this. The people are there in a conference room, they're waiting for you. You go in, open the door now. If you're expecting a bunch of idiots, guess what will happen?
Well, all
Yeah?
of you are idiots, sir.
Yeah, I know. So imagine if you're going to meet these people and you're expecting to see a bunch of idiots. I see a bunch of idiots waiting. What do you think will happen? The way you conduct your meeting, yeah?
It will be different.
Yeah, you go down the drain. But
Mm-hmm.
here's the mindset, the other hot tip. Therefore, same situation, same bunch of people, same room. You open the door and you expect to see geniuses. Guess what will happen to your problem solving session?
Well, the output will be phenomenal, and then
Yes,
yeah, everyone will be influenced like a geniuses as well.
right. Because it will show in the way you conduct the meeting. You cannot hide your body language. So when you go to the meeting, when you chair or facilitate it, you have to believe that these guys have the solution just waiting to come out. Okay. So now what happens is that's the mindset of the leader. He creates a safe environment. He begins with not knowing. He speaks last. Now, what happens this? So what I do is that I will ask each people to contribute an idea or a solution. Then I put it on the whiteboard. You'll see the whiteboard later. Please go to the next slide. Now, there are several ideas, but for the sake of this storytelling, I will limit it to three. So somebody in logistics says, I'm in charge of the warehouse. We can have this area cleared up just for that particular purpose, the secondary process. Then somebody from, get this, QA, not production. QA said, why not production, MacGyver style, improvise a new conveyor system? Meaning to say, it'll bring it from area one, the main congested area, to the secondary process area. Remember, this is from QA, not from production. So surprise, surprise. Then somebody from HR says something like this, if you need more warm bodies, remember we have a contract with a third party service provider. Now, if you're in HR, you know what I mean. If this is not your core process, you can outsource it to those guys. There's only one caveat. These are supposed to be a separate organization. They're supposed to have their own area, and the third service provider should never, ever, ever be working alongside with the regular employee. That's the limitation. So what happens? Go to the next slide. So what happens is that we made the first two work. Notice now because of the conveyor, which was implemented, and this area which was already designated, pretty soon we had all those clutter out of the main area to the secondary process area. Last problem. What do we do with the outsourced party? Remember what I said. These people cannot leave their area designated by that green area over there. So how can we bring those people to go to work in the yellow area? Answer. Somebody gave a very outside the box thinking. Somebody said something like this. Who is to say that's the area? Aren't we the employer? Aren't we the principal? We dictate the area. And so the next slide shows you the outside the box thinking. Please go to the next slide. See, the outside the box thing is that we'll now extend that area because we're allowed to do so. And therefore, the secondary process area belongs now to the third party. It becomes green. And then to connect the two, we'll make a pathway, a corridor, designate that also as part of the area and barricade it with proper signages. Guess what happens? It is running right now. So we have people from our main area transporting through the conveyor to the secondary process area, and the outsourced labor goes fix the process, and then voila, we now have a very efficient system where deliveries can be made on time, customer is happy.
Wow, sorry. Thank you for showing us the entire process of your problem solving. It's really insightful. I hope no, it's really helpful for me, and I hope our audience as well no nakatulong din sa kanila to. Okay, Sir Nelson, thank you for sharing everything. In a short span of time, we learned a lot. Would you like to give a little message for our to our audience?
I'll be glad to.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I'd like to thank you, Rock. I really enjoyed this interview session. It's nice to not just be a talking head, but also to interact with you. And I trust the audience has learned a lot also. It's my way of sharing, giving back. And actually, I like to learn a lot from you as well, the audience, just as I learned a lot from Rock. And let me give you also this particular statement. When you think about it, most likely your industry is a red ocean. Meaning to say you and your other companies, your competitors, you have access to the same technology. Your products are commoditized. That's why the battle is more of pricing, discount promos, or they may say about relationship. The other thing is probably, okay, probably is that you're also going to be quite in terms of bleeding, in terms of profit pressure, cash flow, especially in this pandemic area. Now, what will happen is this. What's the thing you have to create? And therefore, you have this competitive advantage that the other person doesn't have. The answer is to have people who are great problem solvers. That's within your control. And that's something which potentially can do better than your competitor. And if you were to able to master having this problem solving culture, start with yourself, safe environment, look for the root causes, brainstorm ideas, synergize them so that everybody agrees, there's a buy-in, and everybody implements it, then you can potentially be in a blue ocean, or better yet, you can be in a place wherein you will be outbeating your competition. And that's a solution worth running.
Wow, how time flies. Thank you, Sir Nelson, for being our guest tonight. I know everyone out there can expect more of you in the future, that's for sure. Sir Nelson, where they can reach you?
Well, let me share my calling card, if I may have control of the share screen. All right. So if there's any way we can help you, please get in touch with Speakers Bureau Academy. If you want to reach me for some reason, here's my calling card. I have a website, www.nelsontd.com. My email is nelsontd.com@gmail.com. I can also be reached through LinkedIn. Please follow me and I'll follow you back because I commit to write one value-added article per week. And that's where we can help each other. My mission in life is to help technical people communicate great ideas. And we begin with creating a great problem-solving culture.
Thank you, Sir Nelson, and all of you who are listening there tonight. Do check out our FB page, the Speakers Bureau Academy, and soon it will be launched in YouTube channel for all the episodes. And please type your key takeaway here in the comment box. And next Wednesday, we have another leaders executive guest here. We will talk about another Leaders Edge topic. So don't miss the great episode. See you again, same Leaders Edge day, same Leader Edge time. I'm your host for tonight, Rock Leo, a design thinker guru, together with my co-host, Dino Santos, saying, learning is a journey with many beautiful vistas and never-ending horizon. Until next Wednesday, 7 p.m. and good night. Thank you, Sir
Right.
Nelson.
Thank you. Good night. My pleasure.